y'all. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. It's Monday. It's your girl, Miss Quita, here giving you love, love, love. Beginning of the year, so happy New Year. If it's your first time, come on in. Let me show you what we got. We have a wonderful, brand new, all exclusive 2025 year, giving you nothing but love, joy, peace, and happiness like we always do. But of course, starting off, I had to tell my bestie of many years since middle school, happy birthday. I hope that you are enjoying your birthday. I hope that today is a day like no other. And I know y'all like, who's this beautiful lady next to me? Don't worry, I'm going to tell you who she is. I'm going to tell you. We're excited to have you. If this is your first time, we're giving you this mid-month fill up. What we do is we bring quirky, unique topics, and we show you how to be resilient in your everyday life. Now, of course, life doesn't stop, so we don't stop. So that's every second and fourth Monday. Second and fourth Monday, there has to be some type of situation to where medically I just cannot be here. But second and fourth Monday, we are here giving you knowledge, laughter, joy. This is what we do here at Real Resilient Conversations. So whether it's your first time or you've been here before, you are my R2Cs, my Real Resilient Conversation crew. Welcome back. I'm glad to see y'all in 2025. If you have not been here before, hang tight. We got some good stuff for you. So I want to say I am honored that you have decided to join with us. I know that you could have been anywhere else. So today is going to be a little longer, so I won't say 30 minutes. But, giving us some time to really give you the things that really can help change your life on a day-to-day basis. Because as we know, this is the type of teaching that we like to say, hey, get your snacks, kick your shoes off, put us on in the background, just listen. It's okay. You don't have to stay right beside the computer or by your phone, but put it on in the background because we're going to give you some good lessons on life today. So in the comment section, let me see what your thoughts are when it is concerning power of you. So when you heard the words power of you, what were your thoughts? Right? What did you automatically say? What does that mean? Because that's such a bold but powerful statement, right? So whenever you're hearing power of you, what do you think that has to do with resiliency? So for those of you, before I even tell who Miss Tacoma Anderson is, I want to give y'all time to type in the chat section. Let me know what your thoughts are when it comes to what the power of you looks like. So, of course, Dr. Tacoma Anderson, all right, Dr. Tacoma Anderson is the CEO. She is the owner. She is the founder of Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, as you see in her background. She is it is a nonprofit for women. Now, do men also go through this? Yes, but her, where she is most talented in, where God has led her to be, is for women, and so she helps with women victims of domestic violence. Now, if you understand domestic violence and you understand how it can affect you mentally, physically, and emotionally, you'll understand why her ministry is so important. So, with over 3 years of experience, she has been responsible for overseeing daily operations. The foundation of working with women has been her thing, right? When you understand it's not just a thing, it's her. It's what was assigned to her, what was specifically made for her. And as a survivor, I understand her being a survivor of domestic violence. And she and I have found out we have a lot in common. So this is now my new big sister. I felt compelled to really link in with her. And so, of course, I want to give her a chance to, tell everyone, not just me, about who she is and really, I guess, just welcome to the show. Tacoma, tell the people who you are.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. It is such a blessing to be a part of Real Resilient Conversations. It is amazing because most people don't get into the conversation. They go through things that have made them strong and they endure, but they don't want to tell their story. I started Fearfully and Wonderfully Made while I was actually in Japan. And I started it because I was seeing, not only in the church, in business, in my job, I was seeing families that have been impacted by domestic violence. And the best way to help somebody get through is to share what you've been through. So I am a survivor of domestic violence, and it was a 8-year situation. And it wasn't that it was an everyday thing, and so we could talk about that a little bit more. But the when you asked a question, what did I think about when I heard the power of you? It
Mhm.
took me back to the day that I decided enough was enough.
Mhm.
And the day I decided enough was enough, I during the confrontation when I was asked, and the former spouse stated that I was leaving him for someone else. I said, "No, you don't get it. I'm leaving you for the woman that is in me."
Mm. Mm.
And
The
the
power of
woman,
you.
say it again.
The power of you.
Yeah, the power of you. I learned that I was more valuable than my situation, and
Mhm.
I had more to life, more to offer from life, more to take from life than to stay in a place where I wasn't wanted or desired, and I could do better by myself. As
Mhm.
long as I had God, I could do better by myself.
Right.
So,
Right.
what happened after that, in the next 20 years, God catapulted me from not having anything other than a high school education to having 7 degrees, to include my
Goodness.
doctorate. Yes,
My
in
goodness.
different facets of life. He's allowed me to travel the world, which is my passion, meeting people of different nations. So I've seen that this domestic thing is not just local, it's everywhere.
Mhm.
And also, he allowed me to start telling my truth and expressing myself, finding my voice not only in my writing, which was my voice and is
Mhm.
the most powerful tool I have for my voice. He also moved me into where I began to do public speaking, and where I began to really be more boisterous about Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, and actually gave birth to it.
Nice. And sometimes giving birth is not easy.
No, it can be very painful.
Yes. And you going through those hard times are not always, the contractions, right?
Right.
Of that it's coming, that it's time to find who you are and to really pull you out of that, the little girl that's within you that's scared and afraid of starting over, scared, afraid of leaving, that was afraid of the unknown. But the power of you as a woman, as a grown woman, a healed woman, a woman of understandings that it's time.
Yes.
Today is the day. Now is the time. Uh,
Yes.
and so I am so honored that everyone that is watching, you will absolutely get to see how this transformative conversation today is going to lead you down a rabbit hole. As soon as we get off, I'm sure by the time we get off, you're still going to think about
I'm
it.
sure.
Because of course we're talking about, Fearfully and Wonderfully Made is about domestic violence, but there's so much that goes into the power of you. And so let's just get it right into it, y'all. So we're going to, I see, hey, Lucky Seven, she is here well, she is on the, um, oh goodness, it's Instagram side. I couldn't think. My brain is not there yet. Hello, Mom. Hi, Granny. They over on YouTube and Facebook. Thank y'all for tuning in. Um, so we're going to cover 5 different areas. And so, of course, you all know how I like to break things down and we like to talk about different topics. So we have 5 areas we're going to cover today: general and self-discovery, and empowerment. So everything when we're talking about empowering you, I want you to close your eyes and really imagine what it takes to empower yourself. And for some of you who do not understand what empowerment means, we're going to kind of dig into that a little bit more as we continue on for tonight's show. Number 2 would be overcoming challenges. I was going to say obstacles, but it's challenges, overcoming challenges. And we all know that there's always a challenge when it comes to life, right? Everything's not going to be easy. And then mindset and habits is going to be number 3. If you don't change your mindset, you don't change your habits, how can you change who you are and really find who you are? Relationships and influence. Relationships meaning intimate, familiar, family relationships, friendships, partnerships, business friendships, however you want to look at it, ships. right? There's different types of shifts and influence. And then the last would be vision and growth. Vision and growth. We're tying that in at the very end just because we want to close out on understanding your vision and growth for finding who you are. All right. So, number one, let's just go ahead and jump into the first topic because we're going to have a conversation and I know that our time is going to go by quick. All right. So, first question. I know that we talked about the power of you already, but can you share a time in your life when you realized your own power outside of the domestic aspect?
Yes, my own power. I realized it when people would follow and listen to what I would say. You
Mm,
know, sometimes we don't try to lead, but people see the wisdom within you and they start following your lead. So when people started coming to me and asking for, "Hey, what's your take on this? What do you think?"
mhm,
Knowing that I had a sphere of influence that I
mhm,
hadn't asked for, that's when I began to understand that there was power in the voice that I had and how I conducted my life. People observe everything that you do
mhm,
and how you go through situations. Like, for instance, when I was going through my divorce, this is a very impactful moment. I was in college in my 30s, going through college. Yes.
and for probably number five of your degrees.
No, that was the first set. I
Oh,
started
okay.
college at 30, and, at 30, I had made up in my mind that the things I went through in my 20s, I wasn't gonna do in my 30s.
Mm,
I learned that I had to be stronger, I had to be more, bold about what I wanted and go for it. I could not just be, lax about my life, I had to pursue the vision I have for my life,
mhm,
and that became my passion to live because I wasn't happy. So I began to seek out my own happiness because it's not within other people. I had to learn it was within me.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so when I made the decision to divorce, it was sudden for everybody else, but it had been years of turmoil for me.
mm,
And so I went through the storm quietly. And I went into I was in college and I was doing work study. And I went into the office and I closed the door to the office. And it was four ladies in there. And I said, "I need to tell y'all something. And it'll only take me a minute to tell you, but I'm going through a divorce. So if I'm a little moody, just understand." And we all came together and we prayed.
mhm,
And only one person understood what was going on because I had shared that my former spouse had cheated. But she observed the process of my divorce, which I was very cordial. I wasn't, you know, we went to court together,
mm,
husband and wife, and came back as friends.
mm,
Even though I had been through this domestic situation with him, over a course of 8 years, we still knew how to be parents and we knew how to be cordial. We just realized that we weren't good for each other.
mm,
And so that spirit influence, because she asked me, "How could you forgive someone that, has cheated? How could you go through such and such?" Years later, that same person decided that they were going to leave their marriage. And I explained to them, "Why are you leaving?
mm,
What is it just because where is the breakdown in your communication? Because you
mhm,
don't have the same issues that I was having. If you
mhm,
just communicate, you will get back what you had." They've
mhm.
been married for, I promise you, close to 40 years now. And it's just such a beautiful thing, you know, small moments in time.
Right, right. I think for me, one of my moments that I think I realized my power because I think in my 20s I still had that jelly back. I was very much into whatever you want, however you want me to do it, whenever you want me to do it. And I think when I moved to Virginia, I started to say I'm just gonna do it because I want to do it. And then I had grown up in the church. I had went to church, and then when I was telling the church like I have this. Um, Sexual addiction. And then I need help. And I was asking for prayer, and they were like, okay. And then I go a couple months and I come back and I'm like, I slipped up. I need y'all to pray. They like, girl, you're not over it yet. You might as well just go ahead and do it then if you're going to keep doing it. You right. That's what I'm about to do. Because then I said, if I'm trying my best to do it, and I think this is true for a lot of people that grew up in
Mhm.
church, right? You were just told not to do it. And then whenever you do it and you slip up and you're like, hey, I need help because this is something that is natural. It's a natural feeling, right? But it was done in the wrong context,
What's
so to
next?
speak.
Mhm.
But because I knew that I shouldn't do it, but I'm like, nobody is helping me to get through it when I have these moments. And so then by the time I got to Virginia, I was like, I'm about to do everything that they said I was doing, even the stuff that I wasn't doing. Everything I think I'm big and bad enough to do, I'm going to do. Right. But at that time, that was where I felt like I had power of me again, because for
Mhm.
so long I was doing what everyone else told me to do. And so then I was like, I'm going to model, I'm going to act, I'm going to have a radio show, I'm going to do everything.
Mhm.
Because now I just wanted to have, it was a moment of freedom. But then it was like all of a sudden my freedom was it was a jail cell in a sense. I couldn't go anywhere without worrying about who was going to stalk me. I couldn't do certain things because worried if my job was going to find out. It was another type of prison, right? And so it taught me, um, what you think is power is not necessarily power.
Right.
Sometimes it is a, what is it called? Like my chain was loosened, but I was still chained. It was just a different type of chain.
Yeah.
And so my power, of understanding that didn't happen until well into my 30s. Right. And
Yes.
I'm only 41, getting ready to be 42. So probably, right. It's probably maybe been not even 10 years, maybe like 7, 8 years that I finally was like, why is everybody coming to you asking you, right? My mother and my grandmother are on here. They will tell you, they'd be like, ask Quita. Quita figured out, Quita knows. But it's because I know, even in my dating, I realized that even after I break up with somebody, or we were courting each other and decided not to go there, I still get phone calls like, well, Quita, what do you think about this? Well, Quita, how do you think I should pursue that? And I'm like, why are you calling me? But it was the influence that,
Yes.
they were like, I need to know what your thoughts are on it because you are level headed. So I was just like, oh, right.
Yes. And,
It,
that
it's
is very interesting that you say that because that happens to me often. People are attracted to the godliness in us,
mhm,
and they're also attracted to the wisdom that God has given us through our experiences of discovery who we are. But
mhm,
I think the most powerful moment in my life is when I decided I'm not living to please anybody but God.
mhm,
And when I got to that place, I'm not living to please anybody but God. And God is the one that's going to bring the conviction to me. I'm not going to live in condemnation. Like
mhm,
I grew up in the church too, and I stayed in an abusive marriage because of religious bondage.
mhm,
And so when I learned how to step out and say, unless God has convicted me of it, I'm going to keep doing it.
mhm.
Because I realized that God's convictions on me is not the same as He has on Miss Quita,
Right,
because where he's taken me may be in a different place. You may
right.
need to go through that season to get the oil on your life that I didn't have to go through, you know.
Mhm,
But the most powerful moments in time that I've had where I really realized who I was when I was like, enough is enough. I'm going to pursue my vision, and it's all about God. And
mhm,
I can walk away from anything and anyone but God.
mhm,
And when I stopped trying to be a people pleaser and trying to live out everyone else's idea of who I am,
mhm,
things became easier in my life.
mhm. Gosh, I'm thinking, how many years did I waste trying to please someone else? Right.
Yeah,
And then now I tell myself anything that happened was not a waste. It's a lesson. Right. So the
exactly.
lessons that I learned from bad relationships, from, friends that I thought were friends that ended up leaving, to, you know, put me as the bad person. And I am the person that says, blame it on me, say it's my fault. It's not going to change my thoughts. It's
Yeah.
not going to change who I am. Right. And if you wrong and I say you wrong, then in my mind, you wrong it. Blame it on me. Say, yep, that's why we're not talking.
Yeah.
That's why we're not friends. Um, and so whenever, I felt stuck, like um, I had to be somebody else. I had to um, make it out. What would be your thought process when it comes to helping somebody else understand they feel like they're stuck? How do they come out of that when we're talking about understanding who they are?
You know, I thought about this question because I had been in that stuck place for a long time. You know, how do I come out of this situation? And when you're in that place, you can't talk to everyone. You have to talk to someone that is spiritually grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in that stuck place, I had to go into the inner part of me and really seek God for guidance. And He sent someone into my life that reminded me that until you actually are doing everything that you enjoy, you're not true to yourself and you will never be completely happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so my stuck place was I had stopped being creative. I had stopped doing the art. I had stopped doing the photography. I had stopped writing poetry. I had stopped doing everything that was the essence of who I am. And it was because it wasn't appreciated. And I realized that nobody has to appreciate what I do. I just need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to anyone that's in that stuck place, I will tell you this. Why do you feel stuck? What is it connected to emotionally? What is it connected to financially? What is it connected to spiritually? Because those are the areas that usually make you feel stuck.
Mm.
Or what has someone told you that makes you fear going forward with what you desire?
And I think a lot of people are afraid of what their family's going to say, what they grew up hearing, and what the expectation was, what their spouse or their children think. I'm just thinking about not just on a spiritual level, but on a maybe people that are married and they have children. So then, if they want to go and travel the world and be an influencer, but they're like, my role is to be at home raising these children, cooking and cleaning for this man or woman, all right, but they're like, but it's not, they have no passion in it. So then it is often reflected in their energy and how they move right around the house. You can tell someone who is motivated, right? When you said that, it made me think about me painting and how painting was my release. And so I have so much. If and when you come over to the house, you'll see so much painting supplies. But it's because I enjoy painting. I have painting and crafting stuff. I have sewing machine. It's just because I'm like, I like to create. And so when I don't have the opportunity to create, what does that make me feel? Do I feel stagnant? Do I feel stuck?
Mhm.
And so I know that whoever I marry, they have to give me a craft room. Whatever you got going on, because then that's my happy place. If I'm having a rough day, find me in the craft room.
Mhm.
If I'm having a long day, I'm probably going to make sure and of course, embrace my family that God has blessed me with. But I'm gonna say, okay, mommy needs some time in the craft room, right? Um, but I have to understand whenever that time comes, me feeling stuck, I have to know what things make me happy, like you said. For me, if I'm having a long day, I know that I probably need rest, especially if my body's hurting. I probably need rest.
Mhm.
The other thing is I like to listen to babies laugh. It is it's joyful for me. And then I have like, little videos that I like to watch on social media. And my mom always laughs at me. It's this little, I don't know what. I feel like she is of Hispanic nature, but they're speaking to each other. And then as soon as she gets out the car, she's like, bye, bye, bye. And she is doing her dance, and she get all the way to the door. She's like, bye. If I'm having a long day, I like to just watch her say bye like 18 times. It's
Oh,
fine.
wow. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So when I'm having a rough day, I like to listen to jazz on a good day. But if I'm listening to worship all day, I have to get into that deep worship because I want to really just escape mentally from
Mhm.
everything and get my mind in that place where I can come back to peace. And I usually do that with my worship music.
Mhm.
And or I like to drive fast down the highway, but that could be costly. So
Oh,
I have to be well wise and figure out which one is better for me at the moment.
I like to
Uh,
drive fast with the worship music on.
that's it. You getting that praise and worship, and next thing you know, you doing too much, and the cops is going whoop whoop.
This is true. I do. My average speed is about 85. Don't tell.
I'm right there with you.
Oh goodness. I'll be like, oh, don't, man, my goodness. Okay, so we talk about these challenges of speeding. Let's talk about overcoming some challenges. Can you talk about the importance of failure when it comes to personal growth?
I sure can. Failure is the key to success.
Mhm.
And the reason why I say failure is the key to success, because if we were always on point, we will never have a reason to pursue something greater.
Mm,
Failure gives us the opportunity to look at things from a different perspective and apply a different thought process than the initial one that we had. Most people like to go with their initial thoughts and just throw it out in the marketplace. But the
mhm,
people that fine tune those things are the people that actually get the revenue to come in from whatever they have. If everyone's talk show was the same, it wouldn't interest anyone.
right.
You have fine-tuned your product to, hey, these are for people that want to grow. These are people that want to learn how to be strong. And resiliency is, like you said, it's more than just a mindset. It becomes a lifestyle.
Hmm. Hmm. I think I had to fail multiple times. I've been doing this for 3 years, and when I first started, and this is 3 years with the fail forward. This is the fail forward version. But I was doing it on a camcorder, and every time I got ready to try and edit it, it just was not there. And I was like, I don't understand why I can't edit it. I don't understand why it's not coming through. And then it was simple things, just me not understanding. I had a 4K camera and I didn't have 4K editing
Software.
program. Yeah. So then I was just like, well, I don't, but if I hadn't, because then I gave up on it for about a year and I was like, I'm not doing it. It's just not working. It's not for me. And then
And
I
that's
thought to
what most
myself,
people do. That's
yeah,
what most people
a
do.
lot of people give up. But then when after I do a show and then I hear someone send me a message and say, that message was for me. I really needed that. I really needed that reminder. I really needed those tools. Great show. Thank you so much for taking the time out to talk. Then I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. If I reach one, I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so a lot of times when I failed in um, my abstinence, when I failed in my giving, when I failed in my friendships, being there for my friends and calling them, even if I have a busy schedule, just to call and say, hey, I'm just checking on you. When I
Mhm.
failed at those times, the lessons that came out of them, I think make more of a difference to me.
Yes.
It was hard to know that I can't believe that you weren't there. I had a friend who called me and I missed his call. So I called him back. He said, I was like, hey, friend. He was like, don't call me that. Call me by my name since you're never there to answer the phone. So, oh,
Wow.
somebody is spazzy today.
Yeah.
But but then I was like, okay, I failed in his mind, I failed him as a friend because I haven't
Mhm.
been there when he needed to talk to me. And I had somebody else yesterday or today say, hey, I just need a hug. I just needed to see you. I need one of your hugs. Your hugs can really make my day better. And I'm like, oh, right. So somebody else is calling me because they need a word or they just need support. And there's somebody else that's like, I need a hug because I need that energy, that embrace. And so when you're looking at it, you're like, okay, I may have failed in a lot of areas, but in this area, this is where I'm still succeeding. This is where I'm
Yeah.
still making a difference. So,
So, the time that I feel that I really failed, um, was someone that I was really close to. They called me,
mhm,
but I was going through, an episode with severe depression, suicidal ideations, my own self, and a
mhm,
lot of pressure at work. And I was overseas, and they called. Now, for me, I was the person that was constantly calling this person and would never pick up.
Mhm.
And this person called me and they wanted to be there and talk, and I was at work and I was like, "Hey, I can't talk, let me talk to you later." And they
Mhm.
didn't get the cue, "Hey, I can't talk to you right now." And so they kept on and it frustrated me. I ended up cutting and severing that relationship.
Mhm.
And but this had been a relationship I had for over 20 years. But at that moment, I realized that where I was mentally, I could not handle, I did not have the capacity to deal with my situation and her inconsistencies.
Mm.
And she was dealing with her own situations, you know. And when I ended our friendship, it hurt me, but I felt like that's what I had to do to grow at the time. And where the fail, I feel like, came in is that I didn't reach back out after a few weeks or a couple of months because life was lifing.
Mhm.
The next call that I got was on the anniversary of her mother's passing, and she had committed suicide. And to me, I felt like I failed. And of course, you know, you get all this pressure that you put on yourself from, well, if you would have did that, you should have did that. I had offered so many avenues for her to get out of the situation, and she chose to stay.
Mm.
And what hurt me most about that situation is she was the person that really influenced me to get out of the domestic violence.
Mm.
And so for me, that was the biggest fail that I had in my life. And I think that that's what made me even more resilient and pressed to really establish and give birth to Fearfully and Wonderfully Made.
Mm. I was just when you said that, I thought about the conversation I had with my mom and my grandmother earlier, and my mom had a friend that was doing the same thing. She just pulled away until she was ready to talk, and how if as a good friend, if you can be frustrated, you irritated about it, but in the end, then you say, okay, well, I was upset, and now I understand why you did it, but I was
Mhm.
still upset at that time because you didn't talk to me as your friend. I thought that you could talk to me about it, but sometimes you just don't know what to say, how to say, or when to say it. And
Mhm.
so it's better to not say anything at all. So that way you are not hurting anyone else, if that makes
Right.
sense. Um, what about their vulnerabilities? How do you turn vulnerabilities into strengths?
Wow. Vulnerability requires you to start to trust where you have no trust.
Hmm.
And one of the things that God does, He gives us a lot of opportunities, and
Hmm.
He presents people that are really true people after His own heart. We have to be wise enough to see it. And when we start to trust, we will start to move beyond those vulnerabilities. We will let people in. And like what we just talked about, me being bold enough to say, hey, I was in a state of depression and I was suicidal. I
Hmm.
had to be vulnerable enough to say, I need some mental assistance. Can you help me mentally with this? I was trying to give her mental assistance and she didn't want to take it, you
Hmm.
know. But even in my worst moment in time, I found that I was resilient enough to try to help somebody else through their storm.
Hmm. And I think a lot of times we are helping other people even in the midst of us bleeding, right?
Yes.
Um, and I like to look at it as a comeback medic, right? You are hurt yourself, but you have to say, okay, let me just bandage this broken arm, but I need to help you that's bleeding out internally. A lot of times, as people that are extroverts, or more so empaths, let's go that route. People that are empaths feel the need to want to be there and help. The problem is that they're vulnerable as far as their love, their openness, their
Mhm.
kindness. It's like I told someone else, I said the way that I love, the way that I show up for people is my strength as well as my weakness. It's part of my
Exactly.
vulnerabilities, right? Because then I'm willing to go beyond, above, beyond, even in my time where I'm tired, I'm hurting, I'm struggling mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and
Mhm.
yet I'm praying for other people. I'm pouring out into other people. I'm embracing other people when myself, I need someone to embrace me. I need someone to
Mhm.
hear me, right? And it takes a lot of understanding your vulnerabilities, but using them as strengths and say, okay, but now I don't have the strength. Now I don't have the energy.
And you know that right there. sharing it with people and getting them to understand that, hey, I'm in need. And most
Mhm,
people are like, oh, girl, you don't need anything. You're always strong. And I'm like, let me just pull away for a little while. And
mhm,
that's where we as women or even men, because I
mhm,
had some men friends that have also been through domestic violence and
mhm,
have been through even breast cancer. And
mhm,
they have been resilient because it's something different that most men don't encounter, but it happens.
mhm, mhm,
And having someone, a voice to talk to, having someone to confide in. And we have to remember that we can't be an island unto ourselves.
true.
We were created for relationships. So we
Mhm,
must learn how to have those ships that actually move and move forward and not just stay docked.
mm. 'Cause there's some people that are still trying to say that they're with you, but they are still docked and you're still moving. And
Mhm.
in your vulnerability, you have to say, I need somebody that's ready to move like I'm moving. And I think that also goes with not just spiritually, but I'm also thinking about intimate relationships. A lot of times you can be like, but I like that ship over there. That ship, nice. But then it's not going where you need it to go, right? You supposed to be going east, they going west. You like, but that right there, that look good, or
Yeah.
that smell good. All right, ladies, that smell good.
Them some
That
beautiful
look
eyes. That was my weakness right there, them beautiful eyes, yeah. And but you have to listen to the conversation
hmm
because that conversation is gonna tell you where the mentality is.
right.
And, if one of the things I have, military big brothers, and they would tell me things before I went overseas for the first time because I was 18, 19. Well, I just turned
Mhm,
20, my first overseas tour. And my big brothers all said to me, "Hey, look, Korea, you're just there for a year. Nobody's coming back married. Don't believe the lies." And I was like, "But yeah, And they were like, "No, it's just you're just a companion for a year. Don't even." And this is
mhm,
what I learned, the level and degree, learning, getting back to the power of you. When you don't understand who you are and you don't have self-worth, identity, self-confidence,
mhm,
you will attract anything that will manipulate and will, betray you. When you learn the power of who you are and you walk boldly in it and you demand the respect just because you walk into the room with the power of knowing who you are, you get a whole different audience.
mhm, mhm. And so you're talking about mindsets, right? And your mindset, like you saying, people don't go there and come back married. But when you're talking about the power of you, how do you balance then your ambition to want to be better with self care? You have ambition, you have drive, you're leaving one place, going to another. Um, but how do you balance that and still take care of who you are?
One of the most powerful things that I had to do is the power of the word no and
Mm,
really mean it.
mm, mm.
Um,
Passed out.
because Because people who have drive are usually high performers, on their jobs, high
Mhm,
performers, and people just draw from your talent, draw from your gift, and, "Oh, because you are such a sweet person," oh, they keep pushing what's on their plate onto yours until you're way down and they're free and they're off and they're doing, and you
mhm,
begin to be like, "Hey, but what about me? Oh, you'll
mhm,
get some time, don't worry about it." And then you start to deplete yourself, and then you begin to beat yourself up, and you begin to resent your life
mhm,
because you are doing everybody else's vision but your own.
mm,
And so the power of no, and hey, you know what? I would love to help you, but right now my schedule's full. And, saying, "I'm not available that time." You had to really put in those very strong boundaries and
mhm,
boundary lines, the same way that you have to do it in relationships and say, "Hey, you know, God called me to abstinence. I've been walking this walk. Brother, if you're really interested in me, understand it. Until we get married, there's not going to be anything.
mhm.
Can you walk with me like that?" When
Right.
you are upfront about what your intentions are and you make others be that same with you, we
Mhm.
don't run into a lot of, "I'm not taking care of me anymore."
Mm. I think a lot of times people don't take care of them because they've been taught so much to take care of others. And so if they,
And you're told you're selfish if you take care of you.
correct,
You know,
correct.
but the thing that I learned is if I'm depleted, I can't take care of nobody.
That's true. And that I had to tell somebody that, like, oh, well, why can't I see you? And I said, because my schedule's full. Today I have a podcast. Tomorrow I have to host. Wednesday is probably the first time that I'll have availability to really even give anybody else any more energy. And I think because a lot of people, when we're talking about my ambition, right, being able to
Mhm.
have a resiliency consulting company and then to still try and work full time for the VA, still go to school full time and
Yes.
still deal with chronic illness, it's draining. And then to have people to want to pull from you, and then there's no one imparting back into you, it is draining. And you have to be able to say not today, or like you said, put up those healthy boundaries and say
Mhm.
today I can, tomorrow I can't. This is the next time I have available, and this is the time space that I have available. I cannot give you my entire day, because now that means something else is being neglected. And I think successful people, when you're talking about self care, they have more organization with their lives.
Right.
They are able to say, from this time to this time, I am dedicated to you. You have my full undivided attention, because at this time, though, it belongs to something else or someone else.
Yes. And,
Right.
you do. You have to learn how to shut off your phone. You have to learn how to not turn on the TV. Take some time to really disconnect. I
Mhm.
love being in the car and driving long distance and nobody on the phone with me and just getting into the music and just having a conversation with God
Mhm.
and, enjoying the scenery, just enjoying a ride. And one of the things that we also have to do is understand that we have only 24 hours a day, but we can't spend the majority of our day pushing somebody else's vision and never set foot into our own vision, because
Mhm.
what we're doing is we are not being true to who you are and who you're created to be. And when you're not operating in your passion or your gift, then you're not really being completely fulfilled.
Mhm. And I think that that also goes for myself. I understand that it's a lot of areas that I don't feel completely fulfilled, and I'm
Mm.
still trying to learn how to appreciate, right, or have gratitude towards where I am and where I'm going. And so, how do you look at gratitude, and how does that play into personal empowerment?
You know, people are more apt to do for people that show gratitude than people that think it's your obligation.
You right on the hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because, people fail to understand how far, I appreciate you, I thank you. Thank you for your time. I value what you did because that person chose to do that.
Hmm.
They didn't have to. No
Right.
one's obligated to you to do anything, you know?
You tell, I was gonna say, there's a lot of people I can say, can you make a phone call for me? Because they think I'm obligated. Um, and that goes back to relationships, right? When you have those type of ships and those type of influences, um, and when you were talking about the power of saying no, but how do you inspire other people to discover that power of saying no, of even acknowledging that they have the power?
One of the things, my tagline is inspire, encourage, and impact.
Hmm.
So, how do I inspire people? I get them to start doing self reflection, look into the inner part of who they are. One of the things I will do is ask them, have you considered if you were to do such and such, to get them on the road to think differently outside of what they are already thinking. And then what inspires people is some people are inspired just by watching you do. They feel like I can do as well. Some people you need to sit down with and say, did you consider that if you were to take this amount of time each day and you write down your vision, it's very important to write down your vision, because if you write down your vision, you can make a plan. Once you make a
Hmm.
plan, you begin to operate it step by step. It's like baking a cake. You
Yeah.
do what is required. You got to put in the time. You got to enjoy the heat, and then you can eat
Oh.
the cake, right? You can eat the sweetness. But but most time people want this microwave event to happen in their life, but most of the things that we really value and we really enjoy, it took some time for it to come to fruition. You know, it takes sometimes hours or weeks to, my brother in the faith is online, for him to compose music.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's times when God just gives him downloads from heaven, and it's like just 12 hours straight in his music room. He's got a new album out. With
Goodness.
me, I can sit down and write chapters in hours,
Mm-hmm.
and a book would be ready. And then there's times when it took years for it to develop. You have
Mm-hmm.
to know what season of life you're in and really just trust the process, but
Mm-hmm.
don't get so caught up in what you desire that you're not seeking God's desires above your own.
Mm-hmm. I feel like my me still trying to discover my own power. Some days it's good, and other days I struggle with understanding that power looks different. So for me, on different days. So my power to be someone's support system, my power to tell people about their feet, it looks different depending on the atmosphere that I'm in, right?
Mhm,
And then there's other days that I can say, "Hey, this is what's going on," and they say, "Oh, well, I didn't even know that I needed it," right? Whenever
mhm,
I'm there or I'm just calling, I've called someone and I said, "Hey, I'm just checking on you. Do you need anything?" And they say, "Well, I don't, but I guess I didn't realize that I needed somebody to even call and check on me. Like it made me feel better."
mhm.
And sometimes the power isn't necessarily on what you're pulling, but it's what you're giving.
I think that what is very powerful is when you're in your own storm, but you can find the time to encourage someone else in their
Hmm.
journey. And most of the time, you'll find when you're encouraging them, that encouraging word that you're releasing is actually for yourself.
Hmm.
And
I call
the
that the
other,
boomerang effect.
yes, the the other time that I find very powerful is sharing the knowledge that I've obtained from the different challenges and obstacles God has allowed me to overcome.
Hmm.
Um, my faith in has been a very strong anchor for me. And even with my faith walk, there's still been times when the humanity of who I am has taken me down that rabbit hole of, can I really trust God the way
Hmm.
that I desire to? And then there's that encouraging word that comes from somebody that does that random call or sends that random text or sends that random verse of encouragement. And
Hmm.
that's what I try to do with other people. If I know that you're going through something, I want to seek God for something to say for you that's going to impact you in a positive way. Everyone doesn't receive the same, so you have to find how that person receives.
Hmm. I have to giggle to myself. I went to an event with Miss Clifford on Saturday,
Hmm.
and it was called the State of the Black Woman
Y'all look
here in
good
San
too.
Antonio, and it was such a phenomenal experience, right? But I'm laughing because you were talking about the cake. That's exactly the um,
Analogy.
that I used. I said, "Can she get out of my business?" Then you was talking about something, and I said, "That's what me and my mom were talking about today." I'm like, "Girl, we are kindred spirits." I don't.
Yes.
um, I think that's a beautiful thing. That's why I was over here just thinking to myself, like, "Okay, God, I like the confirmation whenever I'm doing things, and God just be like, and ding, yes, see you right there in the vein, you where you need to
Yes.
be."
Yes,
Uh,
and that's always encouraging for me
mhm.
when, God's given me something and then you may have said something like the day that we met,
Mhm.
you know, and you said something, I was like, "Huh, I'm gonna have to use that. Thanks." And because then it's like it gives you that push to go forward.
Mhm.
Many people when that first contraction hits and it's a strong one, and you wanna stop, like, "Well, no, you
Mhm.
gotta stop."
Oh, somebody come cut this baby out. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
what I've learned is that, pain births purpose.
Mm. Hold on,
And
say it one more time for the people in the back.
pain births your purpose.
Goodness.
And you think about it, a mother gives birth to a child, her purpose becomes to become a mother through that pain.
Mm-hmm.
And in that mother, she has to impart, she has to nurture, she has to feed, she has to correct,
Mm-hmm.
and she has to encourage,
Mm-hmm.
and then she has to release.
Mm. Mm.
And that's what we have to do in when we're looking at being resilient. We have to release the things that's causing us to be in that place of discontentment. We have to release the things that's keeping us in a mindset that we're a burden, we're weighed down, we're heavy, we can't come out, we're in quicksand, that we can't breathe, we're suffocating. We have to release. Every time I'm around this person, I just feel like I get so tensed up. You release it.
Then you release that person too,
Yeah, you
because
got to
that
release.
person, yes, you have to
And
know where to go. Mm-hmm.
that's the thing, like I said, one of the hardest moments for me and where I felt like I failed was in a relationship. But I also had to reflect, and God allowed me to reflect over the years and all the times that friendship wasn't as true on the other side as it was on mine.
Mm-hmm.
The sacrifices wasn't on the other side like it was on mine.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to come to a point where you understand that once you release people to God, that's His. It's not yours. You can't
Mm-hmm.
be everybody's savior. You
Mm-hmm.
can't be nobody's savior, to be real.
Come on.
And when you learn that you can't be anybody's savior, you stop trying to save people. But
Mm-hmm.
you begin to lead them to the water. If they choose to drink, they drink.
Mm. Let me go on because when you got time. All right, vision and growth, y'all. Fifth topic, vision and growth. What goal did you think you once that you once thought was impossible that you were able to achieve?
When I was 14 years old, when I was really into writing, and I had someone from my childhood that I was in school with, did not comprehend my writing because I was writing way beyond my years.
Okay. Okay.
And most people say that the poetry is deep. And they said, "Why are you writing this? Nobody's ever going to read it. It's not worth anything."
Now look at all these books you got out. What you got?
So,
7? Yeah.
yes, 7. So I had a vision, I seen a dream of my name, Dr. Tacoma R. Anderson, on a book cover.
Mm-hmm.
So the power comes through relationships too. And so in 2016, I met with my now pastors in Japan, and she had already released books.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, "You need to release your book." I had this book for 15 years that I sat on. And because I allow someone else's conversation to put me in a cage that nobody would ever want to read it, I just kept all these thoughts to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I released a book. And the first book I wrote was the book of poetry, and released it. And people were buying it. And it's most people's, my books is one of their favorites
Mm-hmm.
because people can connect to the roller coaster ride of emotions. They can connect to the seeking and not finding. They can connect to the finding, and they can connect to, I need someone greater than myself.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I learned, that when you operate in truth and you're true in who you are, being true and accountable to yourself, and allowing yourself to be accountable to others that want to walk with you and want
Mm-hmm.
to be the iron to sharpen you, then
Mm-hmm.
you become that person that becomes empowered to step deeper into your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that God gave me, my personal quote is, oftentimes we run from the destiny that God has us because it's bigger than what we ever imagined that we could have. And so the same person
I've
was,
been running. I'm a runner. I'm a runner.
so the person that committed suicide, she had emailed me, and at the bottom of her email, it said, "A woman's heart is her suit of armor." And I was like, "Oh God, that's a beautiful quote. If I had a quote, what would mine be?" And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting, and all of a sudden it comes to me, and God says, "I found that while running from my destiny, that I gained character to walk deeper within it."
Mm. That now I'm gonna sit and ponder on that. I hope y'all thinking the same thing. I'm gonna have to sit and dig and
So
look deeper for that one for myself.
when you're talking about the power of you and how you're getting there, and these obstacles that people want to see as obstacles, they're actually opportunities. Every
Mhm,
challenge is an opportunity for you to step out into a
mhm.
greater depth that you didn't think that you could. It's an
Right.
opportunity for you to show others that you have the skills that is needed to do the job that they thought that you could not. It's an
Mhm.
opportunity for you to allow God to show you who He created you to be versus who you thought you were.
Now that's good right there. That's always been my prayer. God, show me the way that you see me.
Yes.
Because usually I'm downplaying myself. I'm like, for many years I believed the lie, the word curses I had put on myself.
Yes.
Um, and that was, it's something wrong with you. That's why you're not married. It's something, nobody's ever going to want to marry you. Nobody's ever want to have children with you. You don't deserve it. You're not worth it.
Mhm.
Whatever because of XYZ, right? And then
Right.
finally I said, oh no, it's you're not married because the right one hasn't understood that you're already their wife. You're a wife. But if they don't understand that you're the wife for them, then they don't
Yes,
deserve you.
exactly.
Right? We
And
had already talked about this. We are not the dating type of women. We are wives waiting for a husband to find us. All
right.
right. Waiting for a man to find us and make us their wives.
Not
And
just a man. We're waiting for a husband to
a
find us
husband.
because
Right.
you gotta be a husband just like we gotta be a wife before you get
Right.
connected. Because a man can marry a woman and he can never become a husband
Ooh,
because he don't desire to be. I want a man that desires to be a husband because then he will know how to impart into me. He will be able to cultivate me and he will
for
be
me.
able to lead the family. You know, that's a problem with a lot of men
In today's
today.
culture.
Yes, today's culture, they feel like a woman that has had to be strong or had to be resilient and had to overcome because the person that they had may originally selected did not follow through with the promises and the vows that they made and were left in situations where they had to overcome and there was no one there for them other than God.
Hmm.
And and had to figure it out and then learn their strength through Christ Jesus. And they were able to make it through. And now that they're walking in the fullness of who God has created them to be, empowered women who have been overcomers and walking in that overcomer mentality, knowing that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me, then
Hmm.
it's going to take a kingdom man to get a kingdom woman.
I had to just sit back in my seat to calm it, girl. And I said that's why I kept wondering why things just didn't seem to work out for me.
Hmm.
But it's because whenever God sends the right one, like I've always said, the one that God is going to send for me, he's already going to know it. He's going to see me. He's going to be like, that's her right there. That's the woman I've been praying for. I've been waiting for it. And that's her. I know it.
Hmm.
Everything in them is speaking. God is pushing them to be like, what are you waiting for? This is what you say you wanted. I done brought it. You going to miss it or you going, all right? And because I am the type of woman, I'm like, I am not waiting around for, 2, 3, 4, 8, 10 years for you to try and figure out if I'm your wife or not. Sir, at this tender age, if you don't know what you're looking for, I may not be the right woman for you to even entertain. Um, and so, with the time, I'm trying to be mindful of your time as well. If you could
Oh, I'm
leave
with you
one
as long as you
message,
want.
I'm sorry.
I'm with you as long as you need.
Okay. If you could leave one message with the listeners about the power within, what would it be?
Your true identity is connected to the God that created you. And through him, you have the greatest power because there's nothing that can stop you once you trust him to walk out your purpose.
Purpose is the key word there. Purpose within you. I think understanding that the power of you is always about who you really are, not who someone else says you are, not
Right.
the way that someone else says that you should be, how you should dress, how you should behave. Who is it that you truly are? Right? I tell a lot of people when folks are comparing or pointing a finger when people dress different, or they wear their makeup different, or um, they talk a little different. Their character's a little socially awkward. Say,
Mm-hmm.
that's just who they are. And the person that they're supposed to be with is going to love that quirky stuff about them. It's going to
Yes.
love the uniqueness in who they are. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
love that they are very eclectic, right? In the way that they dress, the way that they look, because they're like, that's what makes them different.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, when I did used to write poetry, my name was Perfectly Flawed. I said, everything that you think is a flaw is perfect in God's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly flawed. And so my message would be, um, anything that you see as a flaw is perfect.
You know, it reminds me of something I learned a long time ago when you say that.
Mm-hmm.
Diamonds are created from pressure, time, and heat.
Mm-hmm.
They have many different facets, but all of them are not perfect.
Come on.
And until Christ's return, none of us will be perfect. We are
Mm-hmm.
all being perfected. And the power of you is understanding that you have things within yourself that you can always improve on. And
Mm-hmm.
it's what you choose to improve on that's going to make the difference. It's not what other people tell you you need to work on. It's maybe times when people tell you, hey, you need to work on your attitude. You need to be into perspective. Do I really have a nasty attitude? You know if you do or not. Be
Yeah.
honest with yourself. Sometimes people can encourage you in that way, but
Mm-hmm.
just because somebody say, "Girl, I don't like the way that you dress," if you're comfortable with what you got on, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I and but the power of you comes with you understanding that I must perfect who I choose to be every day.
Mm-hmm.
I must perfect the way I love. I must perfect the way I have conversation. I must
Mm-hmm.
perfect the way that I demand the respect that I choose to give.
Mm-hmm.
And then that will begin to strengthen the power of you and strengthen your vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm. Vulnerability. Come on. Y'all give it up in the chat. Put some hand claps in the chat, as we thank Dr. Tacoma Anderson for coming out and joining us on today. Tacoma, I thank you. I appreciate you. I love you to the heavens and back,
Yes.
for coming and hanging out with us. Because that's our time. So I pray that tonight something was said that really jump started your resiliency. I pray that we have been able to touch you. And if not, please, please, please like, share, subscribe. So this is for not just you, but for someone else, not just for today, but for future generations to come. We are here once again every second and fourth. And we want to say thank you so much again. I know that you all are trying to figure out, oh my goodness, is she going to have a guest speaker each time? There's a possibility. Uh, so make sure that you hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything that is to come. And I want you to come back on the 27th of January. As you can see, there is a flyer. I don't think I can take my name off right now, but there's a flyer that is up here in San Antonio on the 24th of January. We are having our annual Catalyst of Change speakers engagement. As you can see, Dr. Tacoma Anderson is one of our guest speakers for that event. You don't want to miss it. If you're here locally, please make sure that you send me a message, inbox me, and I can get you the link so where you can buy those, buy your tickets to either watch virtually or to be able to watch. In person. We would love to have you in house. There'll be some giveaways. There'll be some wonderful times of networking and fellowship. So once again, come back on the 27th. That will be after the actual engagement. But come back on the 27th. We will have part 2 of Power of You. Once again, until then, remember that it is a sin to be good when you're called to be great. Love, joy, peace, and happiness. I pray unto you until we see each other again. Bye.